there isn't a good example of one that doesn't also have some support from their military as well. Like I said, I think all that shit's just excuses to try to defend gun rights. I like guns, but I'm willing to admit I like guns, and that's the reason I own them. Not that it's some elaborate plan to fight back against my government. I just think it's a silly argument. Like, it seems like there are just way more interesting arguments than that one. But like I said, I'm a gun owner, but not super pro-gun. I still think, I at least think regulations should be tightened. Bare minimum, we need to get into like waiting periods. Anybody who isn't willing to sacrifice that to be a gun owner, like, can suck my pee-pee. Most crimes are passion-driven. This idea of this super easy to access black market that everyone will use is silly as fuck. The idea that the average criminal wants like a fucking automatic weapon is hilarious. It's not true. They don't want to go to prison any more than you do. The most sought after gun on the street is a handgun. It's not your AR. Second's going to be a shotgun. Because again, you're getting into the legality of it. If someone's going to commit a crime, they want to lower their chances of doing serious prison time. Well, and then throw it away too, Gryle. Yeah, handguns are the one that do have the stricter rules. I was saying that earlier. They're the ones that do have some of it. It's everything else that doesn't. So the sentence depends on the weapon used. So getting caught with a certain gun, yes, like, because there are a lot. There, again, you're getting into the legalities of gun ownership. Certain weapons aren't legal. You know, like sawed-offs and things like that are not legal, unless you get into getting special registration and stuff like that, which can take. You know, I'm waiting 10 months on suppressor stamps for my guns. People are doing passionate crimes with a rifle? Absolutely, Vermino. A cheap shotgun? A cheap rifle? Absolutely. Gonna go kill a pissed off lover? Absolutely. What your option is what? That they're going out and buying it out of the trunk of some dude's car that they happen to know? Because that one's funnier to me. Well, we don't have waiting periods on handguns. Romina. So. We have background checks, but not waiting periods. I mean, that's just, again, that's just you making an assumption. That's all it is an assumption, right? Like, because I can show you the stats on, like, survival of getting stabbed over getting shot and getting hit with a hammer over getting shot. But you're making the assumption that somebody's just going to do the deed the same with a hammer over a gun, which isn't true, because one's a lot less personal. It takes a lot more hate for somebody. If you've done any behavioral studies on crime, it takes a lot more hate for somebody to stab them repeatedly with a knife to death than it does to shoot them once. To bash somebody's head in with a hammer is a lot harder thing for an average human being to do than to shoot them once. Again, like, I just don't see, like, and I know you're a gun owner, we know we've had talks pro-gun, but, like, I just don't see the argument to, like, everything in this world we do is regulated. It's not all some horrible evil plot to fuck you over. Sometimes it's just an attempt to be a little bit more careful. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that when it comes to a deadly weapon. I think to a degree, imagination, yeah. I think you're going to kill them the way you think you're comfortable. Same with killing yourself. I mean, I hate to drag it to that too, but same with doing that, right? Like, you're going to do it in the way that you're comfortable and think you can actually do it. I don't know what this does. Does this, like, lock me in a build or something? Because I don't want that. Locks your build up until you bought it. Okay, so I could try to find a build and lock those pieces. Cool. I don't know how much health I have, but I think it's a bit. Well, I won't know. It rerolls every time. I think we do live in a country where eliminating guns is going to be a very unlikely scenario. But I also think we live in a country, and a current state in this country, where we do have to address gun violence. And part of the problem is the guns. I think there's a huge mental health issue. But part of the issue is the guns. And I don't see how gun owners can just deny that fact beyond they don't want to believe it. I wish I could have afforded those, but... The AR, I will agree with you that the AR hate is naive. And it's an easy one to target, and it is naive. I do agree with that statement, because AR doesn't mean what most people think it means. Absolutely. Bum, 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 bum. Like, I showed my AR the other day, and yes, it looks super scary and intimidating and oh my, but in reality, it is exactly the same as my shotgun. They both hold 5 rounds and 1 in the chamber, and they're both semi-automatic, and they both can shoot just as fast as one another, and the shotgun's are going to make a lot bigger hole. They're identical. And well, and then it changes state to state, Sphinx too, with the laws on that shit, which makes it even more confusing. I might die trying to find something I like. Locking in Ipecac, I want to do it, but it's probably deadly. To go after something like ARs. I don't know, man. I don't agree with that statement. I don't agree with that statement at all. I think that we live in a world controlled by people we don't want to admit are controlling it. None of us want to admit we're being controlled by anything. But yeah, and driven by fear and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I believe all that. So, like, I think we still, act like it's easier to, like, terrify people with, oh my god, assault rifle, instead of just, like, being honest and addressing the gun issue. And what happens here? And like trying to have like a real genuine conversation about it. Honesty, yeah, like honesty. But instead it's just a lot of misinformation. Like I said, I'd give up my guns as in a heartbeat as an attempt for change, because I do believe we need something to happen. I don't like that my daughter in preschool was learning active shooter drills. I hate that. That's horrific. I generally agree with this statement. Less guns is better. Yes. Absolutely. I agree with this statement. I think the reality of it in America is very difficult and very challenging to create. But yes, and you know, not to brag, but I have a little bit more street experience than the average Joe. I don't, this whole crime side of things, like, people are so wrong about the average Joe criminal too. Like, the only people out there this idea of this black market gun trade and stuff like that's just not real for 99.9% of criminals. And it's not real for, like, the majority of shooters, because they're not even really criminals. This is a cute start. I'll take this. So yes, less guns means less gun violence. I firmly believe that. Didn't I just change that battery out? I guess I only changed one of my two. But getting that to go over without it being horrible is a whole nother ballpark. See, I don't agree with not trying to. This goes with to me, this is a political discussion beyond guns, right? This idea that we're not going to attempt change because we're afraid it'll be hard or it'll be worse or like that. Like to me, that's a horrible mentality to have in life. If you're afraid to change, afraid to try things, afraid to attempt to be better because you might be worse, like, that's just a horrible outlook that will leave you trapped. So I'm all for an attempt. That's exactly my point of why I would give it all up. I would do anything to try to help, to try to change, and if it failed, so be it. We can always attempt to go back, but not in the current. I know, not with our current government. No. And with as divided, especially in the States, with as divided as we are and how back and forth we are, between political parties, every 4 years, every 8 years, whatever. It's just a blame game, right? If something fails, we hear about it for the next 8 years. Then what they did that failed, when we hear about it for the next 8 years, and it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Instead of just like, hey, instead of it being, again, honest, like, hey, we see the flaws in this, but we see the attempt to make change. How can we make this better? That's never going to be the case, right? There'll never be, sadly. Still. What if the government fails? The only one to protect yourself? Like, I'll never be the only one to protect myself. First of all. And secondly, what the fuck do you mean? What am I protecting myself from? The whole world gone bad? That's not ever gonna happen. The moms in my daughter's school are gonna roll up in their fucking minivans with AKs and just start unloading hundreds of rounds at my house? I don't believe that's ever gonna fucking happen. And if you do, I'm sorry. This joke all the time with stockpiling ammo. My friends are like, "Oh, it's not that. It's just like, 20,000 rounds. It's not that much." I'm like, dude, do the fucking math. You know how many bullets you're gonna be shooting a day for how many years you're gonna be shooting? One, you're not that good of a shot. You're not gonna live that long. And two, what kind of gunfights do you think are gonna happen between untrained men in the street? It's not a fucking movie. We're not gonna post up behind cars and exchange 50 rounds at one another. We're gonna shoot a couple times and someone's gonna die. I need enough rounds in my house to kill the first guy that shows up and then take his. And even if the apocalypse does happen, it's not gonna be the movies. You're gonna die. I live near the greatest freshwater source in America. You think I'm not dead in a nuclear war? The badgers will adopt me. They'll even, well, maybe not the honey badgers. Like those people who live in bunkers, they're gonna die. So, Lackert, I would love, like, I'd love, the reason I like zombie movies and zombie apocalypse stuff, I would love for that to happen. Like, to a degree, the like, you've heard me say this. I love the concept, too, that everybody is thinking was going to be a reality. But I love the concept of, like, homesteading or genuinely having to survive. Like, that's why I did Nerds vs. Nature. I love the concept of waking up in the morning and having to survive. That sounds awesome. Life is boring. But like, not trying to downplay anyone's struggle with homelessness or anything like that, but like the scarcity of food in the 1800s was far scarier than it is being homeless. Like, that's just facts. Oh yeah, Lacquer, that's fair. And I don't expect it to be for everybody, but for me personally, like, yeah, I like the concept of survival. It's cool. Sounds interesting. Why would it be good, Demeanor? I'm gonna die. How would you get into survival? Wait for the zombie. I just, like, I don't think there's a really good one. We just don't really live in a world. I mean, there are some options, I guess. Like I said, homesteading or something, or fuck, I could move to an incredibly hostile, you know, country or something like that and hope to get into some shit. But, like, I don't want it that bad. The idea sounds cool, but I'm not going to actively go out there and do it either, right? Like, Nerds vs. Nature was the extent of, yeah, I'll learn about it a little bit. But again, I'm the same guy that, like, I've said over and over and over, the only time I would ever use a weapon in defense, in home defense, is because my daughter's here. I would never use it to I don't think I would ever use it to defend my own life. Unless I already disliked the person. If I already hated the motherfucker that showed up at my door to kill me, I'd probably shoot out of anger. But, like, and again, you know, I'm not... my friends did rob and steal, and none of them ever planned to kill anybody. And no, I don't want to shoot somebody just because they walked in my house. I just don't want to do that. It's not me, man. I know that would destroy me. That would ruin my life. Even if I got away with it legally, which there's a whole nother issue there where it's super hard to actually get away with it. But even if I did, I don't think I'd ever be okay with it. I don't think I'd ever handle it. And those that say they will, I think, are making a hell of an assumption to protect a TV. They live in the woods alone. So same with me too, Rez. Like, I keep a gun near my bed because I live alone in the woods, and like, it does genuinely take. I'm not too big of a man to admit. Like, yeah, it makes me feel more comfortable. But again, I don't think I would ever. Like, if I get scared at night, sometimes I might grab it. Yeah. Because it does calm the nerves a bit. But if it turns out it's a human being that walks in my door, I don't feel like I'd ever do it. Not to mention, I firmly believe in attacker's advantage. I think if you don't shoot first, you're probably lost anyway. So, like, no matter how badass you think you are, the advantage is so great to the person who's already decided to pull the trigger, to charge you, to hit you, whatever it may be. Like, which is the reason I got in so many fights in school. It was fear. If I thought for a second that somebody might hit me, I'd already hit them 3 times because I didn't want to get hit first. And I know that in turn, I started a lot more fights than were ever going to actually happen. I know that now. I probably could have got through high school with 1 or 2 fights instead of over 100. But if a dude walked up and started insulting me, I hit him. Wasn't going to wait and find out. How was I not expelled? It's just a different world over here, man. Why not take the key? Did I miss a key? I don't know. The violence says, yeah, there's a no violence policy in my school now since I've left. But there just wasn't. Just wasn't. I think it was just like I was at like the end of tenure. Like all of my teachers were like 65 plus. All of our shit was so outdated, man. Like, I don't know. We had kids who graduated that didn't even learn how to read and shit like that. Like, it was really bad school at the time I went to school. And it's such a small town that, like, everybody knows everybody, too. So I still would guess that, like, even though we have a no violence policy, that, like, if it was one of the famous names in town, that they would get away with it. I know for a fact the bar owner's kid just smacked somebody with a shovel and didn't get arrested over it. I would have been in jail. Do I sell both my parents? Yeah. I would have graduated in 06. I eventually left. And like, yeah, that kid should have never had a gun. That kid who was still that afraid and that angry, like, should have never owned a gun, right? Like, I don't know, man. I think anybody that talks about it like they're excited to use it shouldn't be allowed to fucking own one. And there's a lot of guys that do. I follow and am friends with a whole bunch of crazy right-wing people on Facebook and stuff. And it's so funny to see them, like, post about, you know, how they're gonna take on the liberals with their guns, and I'm like, man, I got bigger guns than you. If only you knew that everything you're being taught isn't exactly true. There's quite a few of us liberal gun owners out there. But they're excited to use it, you know? They're genuinely out there acting like they're excited to get an excuse. And it's not to hunt. It's that shit to me should be an instant loss of your right to own a firearm. A no tolerance policy, IMO. And again, I don't know what gun owner, like genuine gun owner, wouldn't agree with that. Like anyone who genuinely respects the fucking firearm wouldn't agree with that. If you're bragging about using them, yeah, but these aren't teens. These are fucking 50-year-old men and 40-year-old men. Think they're not hurting people. But the point, okay, I guess, sure, if you want to do that. But I just don't get, again, I don't get why you would even consider defending that type of behavior. Like, if you want to talk about what's bad for guns, it's that type of behavior. If you're pro-gun, that type of behavior is horrible for us. It goes against everything that we're fighting for, which is not the ability to get mad at your neighbor and threaten him with violence. Oh yeah, the majority of violent crime is crime on crime. Yep, that's a fact. Yeah, I agree, Vermino. Exactly. You want to shoot your gun is one thing, but you genuinely want an excuse to kill somebody is not a good thing, and should not be something you should be allowed to say. Allowed to say was a little strict, but you know what I mean. It shouldn't be something that's, especially when you're stockpiling tens of thousands of rounds. That's silly as fuck for Mino and just absolutely wrong. What it has to do with is it's a lifestyle they're brought up in. And that they feel like there's no escape. Because there isn't an easy escape. The idea of just leave, just move, it sounds cool to people who have a good, happy life, but to those that care about their family, that care about their friends, their neighborhood, where they grew up, that's not an option. And sometimes neither is work. And that lifestyle does cultivate that lifestyle. You see the success of people in that lifestyle. It's 100% a financial thing, man. Not 100%. There are people, again, same kind of people, that are just doing it because they want to be tough and act tough and flex, like someone said about taking pictures with guns and shit like that. There are people like that, for sure. But usually they're outsiders that are more than true locals. True people growing up in actual rough, tough neighborhoods. And this is speaking from quite a bit of experience. Are out here blasting, right, baby? Like, my dad wasn't around for many of my formative years. Nah, man, it's I don't know the answer to how to fix everything. I don't, but it starts with, you know, giving people opportunity. True opportunity, and not... No, I lost my fucking card! Oh, what did I do? Oh, I rolled it. That's right. I mean, I love the worker shortage shit going on right now. Like, people are sick and fucking tired of not working for an unlivable wage. And I live in an area that's cheap to live. I can't imagine. It's like, oh, I rolled into something. Yeah. What do I need? Darkroom?
The moon.
Might get in. Might end up in a gang? There's a fuck ton of reasons, man. There's a fuck ton of reasons. The same reason, yeah, we end up hanging out with shitty friends. Like, there's a million reasons, but it's not just... Needed a man in your life. I think parents can certainly have something to do with it, yes. I think parents can absolutely affect children, but you played the specific dad card. But yes, parents in general. But unfortunately, the same with the poverty-stricken areas. You do get, you know, kids being born into homes that are not fit for children more and more frequently. Or lifestyles that aren't fit for children. Imagination. That's a question only you can answer. There is no one else that can answer that question for you, man. That is just a lot. And I think anyone who wants to give you advice there is wrong, because what the fuck just happened there? I shoot money. Really imagine, like, I went through that shit for years, man. And not to make people woe is me shit here, but you know, I got a ton of advice to end shit with Kim and to move on and to you know, take care of myself. And by the end of the day, like, it had to be something I decided, because there was still good things. Like you're talking about kids. For me, it was my daughter. Like everyone kept telling me not to keep putting myself through that same shit over and over and over, but the other option was to not be a full-time dad. And nobody can make that choice for me, man. No matter how much bullshit people wanted to give me, how many dude bros of mine would tell me to just go out and find some strange, like, it comes down to what your priority is, and you have to make that decision what your priority is. Yeah, I spent like 6-7 years in a really bad toxic relationship, but I got 6 or 7 more years of being a full-time dad, and I'm not gonna regret that. Life isn't as simple as fix it. Sometimes it's just like we were talking about with growing up in a shitty area, and you know, like sometimes it's just as about trying to figure out the best of 2 shitty options. And the thing that makes life hard, the thing that makes life scary and hard and difficult, is the fact that we don't get to know what the other result would have been. We don't get to know if we made the right choice. We only get one shot, one life, and we have to make a decision that we can live with. And try not to beat ourselves up thinking about what ifs. Communication's important. But even that, man, Kim and I talked constantly about what to do with our relationship. Constantly. It's not like it's not something we discussed. When I say I had a terribly unhealthy relationship, the reason our relationship was so unhealthy was the fact that she didn't want to be in one. But she also didn't want to give up being a full-time mother. So we, at some point, one of us had to make the choice to give it up, right? Like one of us had to make that choice, and it's not like either of us had a good option. No amount of communicating solved that. Communication wasn't the key to success. It's helped us survive, I will say that. It helped us survive and maintain a relationship to this day. A friendship, whatever you want to call it. A civil relationship to this day. But no amount of communication was going to find a real answer. I don't... Whoever job's offering 28 hours a week too, yeah. Why give benefits if you don't have to? Vacation time? Don't gotta. Boom, boom, boom. Where did my other space use item go? I don't know. Oh, it just disappears sometimes. Oh, I have missing no. Good. That one is still the hardest one for me with my Republican, I didn't even want to say friends, but of acquaintances, folks I know, is this idea that somehow good jobs are available for everyone. That they're convinced. Just get a good job, bro. Stop being lazy. They are fugues. They're just not, man. That's not an opportunity for everyone. That is not an option for everyone. And if you live in a bubble where you believe that, you're fucking crazy, dude. Like, and it's also just not viable. Like, you want your fucking fast food chains, you want your grocery stores, you want Targets and Best Buys, and you want all of these things, but nobody wants anyone that works them to get paid well. I love suburbia for that reason. You march through suburbia. Oh god, I'm rolling up crazy shit now. Good. You drive through suburbia and you can watch rich white people run away from their own creation. They build, you know, all the things that a suburbia needs. The Walmart, the Best Buy, one of every fast food chain, a bunch of Applebee's and Chili's and blah-de-blah-de-blah. And then in order to staff those places, that means bad people have to come live there and ruin their town. So then they move to the town over. And you can just watch the cycle continue as you drive through suburbia and see where it restarts. But yet they still don't want to see those jobs just, like, you know, let people afford to live in their neighborhood. Yeah, they believe there's enough teens and struggling college students to work all of these jobs to fill all, you know. But meanwhile, they don't make their kids work. And bought their kid a brand new Porsche for their 16th birthday. It's not their kid that's gonna work at McDonald's. But there should be enough of other people's children to work at McDonald's so I can get my fucking Coke for $1. Worked at a morgue. And not because it was work experience? Not like because you were going to school to be a whatever that would be? Yeah, at some point we just complete, and you know, it's just continued to get worse and worse and worse. I mean, like, I grew up in a town with one factory, and I've been here long enough to see when the factory decided, hey, you know what? We can fire all these old farts and just hire temp workers. And what it did to this town. And my grandfather got laid off from GM because they claimed the factory was closing, and then they bought out all these old-timers like my grandfather, and then 6 months later, they rehired everybody with temp workers so they didn't have to give the same pay and benefits they gave my grandfather. Like, and I just don't know how people can pretend like that's not happening in the world. Like, that's not exactly the issue in the world, is we've just stopped taking care of workers completely. It's not like we were great to them, but we've just completely abandoned any responsibility to taking care of their workers. It's happened everywhere. But yet, there's still so many people who believe it's just lazy fuckers who don't want to get a job. There are too many people. I mean, that's also just not the case. It's like literally a national worker shortage here. I'm glad, Frog. The issue is we aren't going to pay workers that we decide are unskilled, even if the companies are making money. Because we have decided certain jobs don't deserve it. No matter how much money the company makes, no matter how much money those employees help the company make, we aren't going to pay them. That's what we've decided. And ask everybody I talk to about this. If you owned a company and you were successful, would you continue to pay your employees like shit just because you could? If the answer is yes, then you're a piece of shit. Boom, boom, boom. Jobs member high school, yeah, but they're open during school hours, and you can't work. They could possibly work enough hours in a week to keep the place running, because there's rules against letting kids in school work that long. And like again, for those of you that live in a bubble, there's so much worker exploitation that exists that you don't want to admit to because your life is good. But like my mother, who got a felony in her teen years and then went to school and got trains in medicine and then wasn't allowed to do her job because of a felony she got in her teen years that haunted her forever. So instead, they kept her in the medical field but made her work in low positions because she couldn't get promoted. Because she couldn't do what she actually went to school for. And they knew she couldn't get a better option because she was a felon. Even after 42 years without any criminal history, and they acted like they were doing a favor every time they hired her. And they were, by American standards. But they also held that over her anytime she wanted a raise. She has tried expungement multiple times, Nathan. It's not always an option. And you only want to spend so much money to fail over and over and over. Oops. Basically, yeah, I mean, you're barred from so many jobs. You can't manage a McDonald's if you're a felon. Yet, it's a job for teenagers out of high school. I did pick it up my first time I did Necropolis. No, I did a number 5 room on an XL Necropolis. I mean, even if you believe in capitalism, like, even if you believe in it, like, the idea that you think we've been doing it well is to me, is asinine, like, because the numbers don't lie. It's massively in favor of a very small number of people. Even if you want to stay team capitalism, I personally don't think any form of government is ever going to be perfect, so I don't care what we call it. But you have to recognize that, like, especially in this last year where these fucking billionaires have made money hand over fist while the rest of the world struggles, like, how can you think that's working well? Like a handful of dudes made more money than our country, but there's still people out there that think it's going well. Oh, I need to go down. You know, so I'm not like pro-anarchy. I don't think that any form of government just instantly means success, right? Like, again, I really think we have to get to a point where we stop expecting perfection. Not an anarchist. Nah, man. I tried to be an anarchist for a while, but like there were just too many people in the club. I didn't feel unique enough. You don't think there's any way to account for human greed? See, like, absolutely, we haven't even made an effort to stop it. Like, maybe you don't think we should take all these people's money back from them, but like we haven't made an effort to stop them from continuing to make it at an unbelievable rate of speed. Whatever you want to call our government. Again, to me, this doesn't. I've said this time and time again. That we need this. Like we're trying to fix all the issues. There's no focus. We can't even attempt to fix the basic list of issues that people can't afford to survive while other people are allowed to buy and sell fucking countries. And people seem to see no problem with that. It's just lazy fucking kids wanting their college debt wiped away for free. What do I get if they get that? Get a world where kids weren't. Oh, what are these bombs? It was sarcasm, Ghost. It was, I would gladly see my taxpayer dollars go towards someone else's debt. I would love to see that. That would make me so happy to see that. Like, sign me up. Where do I get to sign a paper to send my money there instead of where it's currently going? I don't know what my build is because I have a bunch of items that you don't get to know what they are. They're just there. And then it re-rolls periodically too. Oh, fuck yeah, buddy. Eat away. Right, Midnight? But no, they're convinced their taxes are now being used wisely.
The lovers.
And not into fucking corrupt government contracts, tax breaks, bombing whatever country is, you know, a priority for whoever's got the biggest wallet or stake in the game. Goodbye, health. I had so much. I forgot health down pills. I couldn't, or health up pills. It couldn't have all been health up pills. What? Oh. Oh, I'm bleeding. I will say I've seen a ton, at least in my bumfuck town in the middle of nowhere, I have seen a ton of like community I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here. Support. And it's been really nice to see people really pulling together for each other. Is that gonna just kill me? Is it? And I wasted my bad trip. I wonder. Well, that should be enough right there, eh? Hi, Pills. No, I would not like to do a victory lap. My pills all disappeared. I'm healthy.
Health up.
Cat Spice Night? I mean, I started it. I usually, oh, is that different? Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. Subs and stuff. I love you. See you probably tomorrow.